What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV. It's Friday, and it's time for your Packers Daily Chat to wrap up the week. The big news of the day, Randall Cobb already declared out for Sunday's competition in Detroit as the Packers take on the Lions. Geronimo Allison still in the concussion protocol. Davante Adams expected to give it a go tomorrow, Saturday, in practice. We'll see what his status is on Sunday. Welcome, everybody. It's the end of the week. You finally made it. Some of you with children probably know it's a 3-day weekend. No school on Monday in most places. So time to stretch out, relax, and chat some Packers. How y'all doing? Andy, look at that. Didn't I just see you? Mike, what's up, man? Lyle, what's up? How you doing? So yeah, the Packers wide receiver core, pretty banged up. Interesting to see how McCarthy and company react and game plan off of what essentially is going to be a game I expect. I mean, you always say this, and then whatever you expect to happen doesn't happen, but I expect this to be a pretty high-scoring affair. I think both teams will be able to push the ball down the field. I think both teams will be able to run the ball, unfortunately. I do wonder how McCarthy is going to utilize his young wide receiving core, because it's clear this is going to be the week. They're going to have to take some of those training wheels off and let those young guys play. Hello from Israel. What's up, Marty? How are you? More tight ends? John, I would think so. You got 3 quality tight ends, not to mention Tanyan, who's young and exciting. So, yeah, I would think you would see, hopefully, a bit more of an influx there as far as not just simply 3 tight end sets, but use of that personnel, splitting it out a little bit more, trying to get creative with it. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of juggling that has to go on, especially since I think some of this is going to hinge on how Davante Adams looks on Saturday. Offense would get more opportunities if it didn't take play clock down every time. Probably true, Steve. I think they'd get more opportunities if they converted third downs and if they didn't put themselves in third and long all the time. But we've discussed this here before. Rodgers prefers taking that play clock down all the way. He likes to get as much information as he can. Yes, it does come back to bite them on occasion. It certainly has this year. It is frustrating to watch, but there's a method behind it. And the biggest piece of that is Rodgers wanting to know everything he can about the defense prior to the snap of the football. Heavy dose of Aaron Jones, please. I don't know if we'll see a heavy dose of Jones, but I think we'll see him quite a bit. I think we'll see all 3 backs, though I do suspect we'll probably see Ty Montgomery used as a wide receiver a little bit in this game, simply because of the injury issues. But I do think Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones will split a good deal of those carries. Is Adams playing, Sean? We don't know yet. He is practicing tomorrow. He's slated to. We'll most likely find out game day when the inactives come out. If the offense continues to stub toes, will questions continue around Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers? Matt, I would expect it. I would expect it to, yeah. It's very rare that they go through these times. Now, we did see it back in 2015. We did see it at the start of 2016 prior to their going on the big-time run, but they've always gotten out of it. That's one thing you can say about Mike and Aaron is eventually they get to a point where they figure it out, so to speak. 2 years ago it was getting to the quick passing game that really kind of jump-started their offense, and I wonder if this year we might be headed down that same path. Why are the Packers against signing Reed and Dez? Well, Reed is signed, Josh. He's a member of the Carolina Panthers. He's set to start on Sunday for them. As far as Dez, I thought that would have made a lot of sense this spring, but now a month into the season, you're going to bring him in. He's going to have to learn the offense. He's probably not going to help you much for a number of weeks. They like to develop their guys. They like to bring their guys in via the draft and let them develop in their program. You saw how upset Rodgers got last week with MVS not, completely executing the route as he was expecting it to be run. Just imagine, a guy who hasn't been in the system coming in and trying to learn on the fly. It's just a different philosophy. It's just not how, it certainly doesn't seem like it's how Gutekunst wants to operate. It is how Ron Wolf operated back in the day, but this is a very new way. Will B.J. Raji be active for Sunday's game, Steve? I hope so. Boyle off the injury report. I haven't seen the official injury report yet, but I believe so. What's bigger in our receiving core, trust or talent? Whew, that's a really good question, Chris. We've seen talent not get on the field because there is a lack of trust there, especially from 12. I don't know. I think, any personnel person or coach is going to tell you that talent is more important, but in Green Bay, it sure seems like it's trust. Our offensive line has to improve more. Carlos, I think they've played pretty well, actually. I know people get frustrated when Rodgers gets sacked. Some of that is on him, however. For the most part, I think, especially in this last game, I thought they ran the ball really well. I think they've held up pretty darn well in protection. Yes, there are, the plays where he does get sacked. There was one in particular last week. In fact, kind of both sacks. But there was one in particular where he just has to get the ball out quicker. And there's a free rusher that blindsides him. That's on Rodgers. He has to identify that pre-snap. Leroy Butler did a great video on it over at Packers News for JS Online. If you get a chance, make sure you check that out. But overall, I would say the offensive line has played pretty well. Run the ball more, says Justin. Well, that's up to Mike and Aaron, and it is a partnership. It's never just Mike, it's never just Aaron, it's both of them. Hey, Nags, is there a chance Ty moves back to wide receiver for a couple of games, catching some balls? Do you think rookie wide receivers will be dominant? I think it'll be a combination of those two, but I do think you will see Ty Montgomery taking snaps at wide receiver this week simply because of the injury issues. I don't think that's going to be, they're not going to throw him out there full time. I don't think. That's just a guess on my part, no inside information. But I do think, it makes a world of sense. You've got a guy who knows the system, has played wide receiver in the system. Put him out there and at least let him, do some of the things you've asked Randall Cobb to do. I think he would excel in that role. If only Adams is a go, put Montgomery back in slot. I think that's exactly what I was just saying. First big test for our secondary, best opposing QB to date. Agree? Glenn, yeah, I would. Absolutely. Trubisky, obviously, first start of the year. He's playing better now than he was then. Kirk Cousins, I think, is a quality starter, but I think Matt Stafford is a cut above everybody they've faced so far, including Alex Smith. Did you see that double team sack on Luck last night? Not a single roughing the passer flag. Yeah, Josh, it's funny how that works, huh? Amazing. Aaron, what do you think about playing Graham strictly at wide receiver with the injuries? I think that makes sense on paper, but I don't think that's ever how they're going to operate. They clearly have worked him into their offense at tight end. They're not going to suddenly just kind of junk that and go, okay, we're only going to split him out wide. I do think this game presents a perfect opportunity to get Lewis in line more and split out Jimmy Graham. I think this game completely calls for it, but we'll see if Mike McCarthy agrees in that regard. Do you expect Mike to be fired regardless of how the season goes? No, Josh, I don't. I think there are a number of different ways it could play out, which we have to let. We have to let it play out. Number one thing. Raji at wide receiver. Will Aaron Jones finally get a start? I doubt it. It'd probably be Jamal Williams, but he got more carries than anybody else last week. So does being the, quote, starter even matter? Especially in today's NFL. Everything's so specialized. On offense especially, like being the starter, that's really for the quarterback and the offensive lineman. Everything else is malleable. It all depends on the game plan and personnel and how they're trying to attack the opposing defense. If he's named the starter, it doesn't really matter. Playing inside, so hopefully less drops. Sean, it's really about concentration. It doesn't, when they had all those drops in Washington wasn't, having a problem with drops. It's all about concentration and execution. Playing inside, sure, yeah, you don't have to worry about the weather, but you still got to catch the ball. You can still be prone to drops. Number 12, full participant in practice. Yes, Josh, he was yesterday. They don't practice on Fridays, and he is slated to practice tomorrow. You think Pettine's D will become a consistent beast? I think it'll be in the top 10 when all is said and done. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't take their lumps along the way, including possibly this weekend, but I do think they have the makings of a really solid unit, yes. Steve, what's up? Do you think Breeland will make his debut with the Packers? Julia, I do. I know he was inactive last week, but a team like Detroit that does like to spread it out, they use a lot of spread concepts, like to flood the field with wide receivers. I think there's a good chance he makes his debut at dime, in the dime back. Is the team still looking for additional D-line depth? I know they tried to get Price from the Browns last week. They had a couple D-linemen in for workouts this week, but they haven't signed anybody. They made an offer to Price last week to try and get him off the Browns practice squad, but the Browns gave him a pay raise and he stuck around in Cleveland. And I think he actually just got promoted to the 53-man roster there. But like I said, they worked out a few guys this week, but no signings are imminent from what I'm told, at least for this week. We'll see. Maybe they sign someone next week, but not necessarily. Is Breeland starter material? Brendan, he is if he gets back 100% healthy and picks up where he left off. There's a reason he was one of the more sought-after corners in free agency prior to his incident and the injury. But yeah, I think he could absolutely, become a starter again in the league. He's only signing a one-year deal in Green Bay. If he kind of comes out and shows what he can do, maybe next offseason he gets a starting gig someplace else, or maybe even in Green Bay. Now we'll see how the year goes. There'll be a lot of twists and turns along the way. What's the receiving core going to look like this weekend, Sean? That's the million-dollar question. We'll see. It all starts with Devontae Adams practicing tomorrow, if he's able to practice tomorrow, and if he's playing on Sunday. Things will look a lot different, dependent on if he's active or not. Got to go with short passes to the tight ends and run the ball to win this game. Sly, I agree, mostly just because I think they need to run the ball against a really porous run defense in Detroit that keeps Matt Stafford on the sideline. I think more than anything, that is the key to this game. Is Mark Murphy really that involved in the week-to-week game plan? Well, Andrew, he's not involved in game planning, but he does say that he likes to hear what the game plan is. He does meet with Mike McCarthy every week. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of your CEO being involved on the football side. But Murphy's the man in charge, and he made the moves he wanted to make this offseason, including hearing about the game plan from Mike McCarthy. Please Photoshop the lampshade into your background. Tim, OG, what's up, man? Waffles or pancakes? Please, waffles, every single time. King looking like he will play Sunday. Yeah, Marcus, he has been a full participant all week in practice. I would guess without knowing, it doesn't sound like there's been any kind of setback. So you would have to think, yeah, King should be slated to play Sunday in Detroit. Will they be able to pressure Stafford like they did against the Bills? No, not like that. I think they'll get to Stafford once or twice, but it's not going to be a party at the quarterback kind of game like it was last week. Joseph, cheers. Do we sign a veteran wide receiver or bring up Yancey if Cobb continues to be out and the injury bug continues along the wide receiver route? I think you know the answer to that. I think they call up Yancey. I would be absolutely shocked if they brought in an outside wide receiver who they have to teach the system to. If Cobb and Gmo were healthy, do you think Adams would sit this one out? That's a good question, Julia. There's no real way of knowing without talking to him. I suspect no, but again, we don't really know the severity of that calf injury. It's possible, but as McCarthy always says, if you're good to go, you're rolled out there. So they don't typically let guys rest a week because this game's in the bag or we got this or whatever. Or because, we're healthy at that position. Does McCarthy still have a job because of Rodgers? Woo, Travis. That's a question. Probably, but as Elliot Wolf told me 2 summers ago, without Rodgers, we'd all have been fired years ago. So, yeah, Rodgers has gotten a lot of people employed, both in Green Bay and elsewhere. I want Kuhn back. I'll bet Rodgers does too. No hats on Cheesehead TV? What? We wear hats all the time. Unless you're talking about in the store, which, stay tuned. Will Mike McCarthy ever get credit for anything ever? Chris, no, not on the internet. Never. Never once. Doesn't happen. He's a good coach. He developed one of the best quarterbacks in the game ever. He rehabilitated a Hall of Famer in Brett Favre. He's won a ton of ball games, but no, he'll never get the credit. Ever. Since Rodgers participated in a full practice, does that mean he's almost 100%? Not necessarily. He didn't practice Wednesday, remember. He was with the rehab group on Wednesday. So that tells you that he's not firing on all cylinders just yet. Whoa, Andrew. If Chuck Cecil had stayed in Green Bay, would he be viewed as the Packers' better safety over Leroy Butler? Andrew. Let me put this as simply as I can. No. Aaron Jones, 20 carries on Sunday? Doubt it. I think he'll probably top out at between 12 and 15. That would be my guess. Do you think getting into a short, quick pass rhythm early on will be the key in helping these younger receivers on Sunday? Steven, that's exactly what I said yesterday. Get Rodgers into a rhythm with these young guys early in the game with some easy passes. With Graham, too. I mean, get Graham going. Get him in a groove with some of these bootlegs, these rollouts. You see the Vikings roll Cousins out like 20 times a game to try and get him some clean looks and easy kind of throws that kind of help get the quarterback in a rhythm. And McCarthy's done this in the past, but we haven't seen a whole lot of it this year because of Rodgers' injury. But I think now that he's moving around better, I think it's time. Ooh, better O-lineman, Joe Thomas or Anthony Munoz, and by how much? I'll take Munoz just slightly. Get Bell? No, Brian. They're not going to go get a running back they got to pay a monster contract to. These are the Green Bay Packers. Why does no one want Dez? Good question, Josh. Probably because he's asking for too much money, or because when he's offered the money, he doesn't like the fit with the team. I mean, I think the Browns offered him a contract. The Ravens did. He turned down the Ravens. It's a good question. Green Bay is so good at having injured players. So Earl Thomas is still an option, right? I kid mostly. Sean, that made me laugh. Who wins the game? Sean, I think it's funny because I think last I saw the Packers were underdogs. The line, I think, was 1.5 to Detroit. Give me the Packers in this one. I know Detroit is probably better than they're perceived at the moment, but I do believe Rodgers gets right. As he pointed out earlier this week, everyone was writing them off a couple years ago when they went down to Atlanta, saying their offense was not going to be able to function because everybody was hurt, and they went in there and scored a bunch of points. Trevor Davis, Jeff Janis, a bunch of guys got touchdowns that day that you weren't used to seeing. That said, I think they'll be able to run the ball, and Stafford will get his, but the Packers win a close one. And that sounds like a good place to leave it. Happy Friday, everybody. Corey and I will be watching the game right here, so make sure you're on our YouTube channel watching that, the watch party on Sunday afternoon. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you friended us, you liked us, it's great. We'll be switching things up starting next week, speaking of Facebook and YouTube. We're going to be going live on YouTube for these chats and then uploading them to Facebook, kind of the opposite of what we're doing now. So, if you want to participate live, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right? But that doesn't mean we're going away from Facebook. We'll still be on Facebook. For the chats anyway, we just won't be live. They'll be live over on YouTube. Thanks a lot, everyone. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. We're on Instagram as well. It's all Cheesehead TV. We're everywhere you guys are. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great weekend.